Hello, hello. Happy Tuesday, November 11th, 2025. How is everybody today? Russell, Juicy, Gary, welcome. Um, it's a strange day. Hans, good afternoon. I hope you got some stuff done today. Strange afternoon when you don't have shipping to do in the morning. I decided, originally I was thinking I was going to get in and do my normal shipping routine, but I had a local, it was very unproductive. You too, huh? I had a client come in. She's a regular. She's in our local pen club, and she came in to pick up an order and her Pelican Hub stuff. She wasn't able to show up. And she came in right away when we got in this morning at 9:30, and we chatted for quite a while. She brought me chocolate chip cookies. Lisa and I, chocolate chip cookies, I should say. And I really haven't done much since. I pulled the orders. That was as far as I got. So it was. I've done a couple of things. There's a new Twisby coming, so I had to work on a Twisby order, and look at that. But it's also, we start at the Tuesday's a late day, so I get to this point earlier, so I had less time to. I was hoping to get some pens listed on the site. Didn't happen. Cleaned up a few things, but here we are. Stocking Ackerman inks? No, absolutely not. You want to know why? You want to know why I don't want to? We're not stocking Ackerman. Always, every order. Number one, we don't get a discount. There are no wholesale pricing on Ackerman inks. I buy it just like anybody else does on their website, and then I have to. I pay more for shipping, and I accept all the risk. And sometimes they don't ship my order in full immediately. They hang on to it for weeks at a time, which is not cool because I have to pay for it in advance. And then when they ship it, inevitably, every single order, no exaggeration, every order, something leaks. The bottles are not designed to be shipping around the world. They leak. Sometimes they tape the lids. Sometimes they don't. They leak. And Ackerman was less than helpful, did not care that, and let's have a show of hands. Who's interested in buying a bottle of ink that has a heavily ink stained label? I'll wait, because there's not going to be a single hand that's going to go up unless I say I'm going to drop the price. And if I drop the price, I don't make any money on that. And if I'm not making any money, why do I do it? Right. I do certain things. I do certain things at a loss. I do certain things for the community. It's mostly in the repair arena. I have a lifetime supply of Schaefer PFM point holder gaskets. I said that before, and I was surprised to sell out. But there's enough for the whole community forever, probably. I don't think I'll ever have to order them again. But we just send me new labels. Send me new boxes. I'll do the work. I can scrape a label off and put it in a new box. But I can't sell a product that has ink-stained boxes and labels. Nobody wants that. And they didn't care. And they said, well, you sell ink samples, so just use it for samples. Well, sure, except when you package everything together in 6 bottles, what are they, 80 ml bottles? Are they 80 ml? I forget which ones. Well, Dutch Masters are bigger, right? 6 bottles of something leak. I don't need that many samples. They don't sell. So, and the last time they were just not happy. They just, And I was not happy, and I'm not going to do it. The bottles are too big, so they don't ship in the standard boxes. So if you get free shipping, then it goes in a different box. And nowadays it would cost, a non-flat rate is, for some places is $11, $12, $13. So I'm not doing it. They're not interested. They're not interested in helping. So I'm not interested in promoting their brand. That's my Brian rant for the day. Sorry. Brian should grow his mustache like Boris and Natasha cartoon fan. I don't know if it's going to grow that big. You read that Japanese shimmer inks are safe to use in vintage pens. I hope you're kidding. Absolutely not. Is tariff an issue on ink? Well, I get all my product through. You're not kidding. Yeah, do not use, number one, any vintage pen that utilizes a latex sac or diaphragm that includes Parker Vacuumatics. No Japanese inks, period. And shimmer, only if you have a death wish, because you'll never get that stuff out. It will clog the feeds. The pens are not meant to be taken apart. They're not easily. The safest ink to use is no ink. Yeah. Collectors. It's not like a Yovo nib that you can just disassemble. To take a nib and feed apart in a vintage pen requires more work than the average person should be doing. People should not be disassembling vintage pens on any regular basis. Like, after I restore these pens, they should not be taken apart for decades. Vintage pens should use, and this is why every vintage pen I put on my website, there was a paragraph, and it starts in bold, and it says, please note, vintage pens should use Waterman ink. You can also use Parker. I forget what the entire thing says, but it's Waterman ink, Parker ink, your best options. Always Waterman. But my first three options are Waterman, Waterman, and Waterman. And then a close fourth, Waterman. You have your other pens for shimmer inks, Japanese inks, all that stuff. Use them in that. Something that's easy to clean. A cartridge converter filler that you can flush stuff through easily. That's what you use your shimmer in. You will behave now. All right. Very good. Thank you. Yeah, washable blue. Yeah, there we go. Let's see. Califolio says they're latex friendly. I have no idea. No idea. I like Waterman. That's what I'm going to use. And again, I got cartridge converter pens. I can put whatever I want in these guys. If I want something fancy. Otherwise, I know what works. It has worked for 100 years. You use Waterman. When Ford started making cars, you had a choice of colors: black, 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 or black. So, anyway, hot button, huh? Hot button day. Well, at least you got the audio fixed, huh? Yes. Use a Waterman for your Esterbrook. It's a lovely color. They're lovely colors. They're not bad. You need to find someone who will take the shimmer inks you want at the Pelican Hub off your hands. They make you nervous just sitting in your pen room. Yeah. Right? I hear you. All right. What do we got today? We got a continuation yesterday. Yeah, I wish Waterman had big back. Yeah. And the most disappointing thing about the brown or Havana brown, absolute brown, I guess is what it was called, is there was no announcement ever Nothing. Now, this was the old Waterman distributor. And a tanker truck of blue Waterman parked next to the shop. Wouldn't that be something? Little tap. Herbin has that system, and we could get that if we could have gotten that at the store back when we had a store. They have a system where you can get, and then people will bring in their bottles, and then they can pour their own. What I envisioned was a complete mess. So I said, absolutely not. Is anybody going to been? It would have been awesome. It would have looked cool. It looks cool. Until, yeah, don't use private reserve. There's lots of reasons not to use private reserve. Some are. I'm not gonna get on that train. I'm not a fan of private reserve, and not a fan. There's so many other better inks. Yeah. So this urban thing is, and it goes along with their, I'm killing you. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have it, use it up. Use it in. Diamine's fine. My understanding is diamine is fine. You can use diamine, not the shimmer, tastic, of course. In vintage, the Jacques Herbin inks, I think, were the ones that came in this little. They remind me of when I was a kid, and you'd have those lemonade pitchers, and then you just pull the thing and you pour your lemonade. So yeah, I'd love to have one of those, but I just you can't trust that that people aren't going to make a mess, and you have carpet in your shop because you don't want glass to drop on a hardwood or something and break. But if you have carpet, someone's gonna make a mess, or they're not gonna be paying attention, or they're gonna look over and they're gonna overfill. I mean, just this morning, I decided I was gonna make coffee in the pot, and usually what I do is I pour water in the pitcher, right? How much water I want, and then I pour it in the coffee maker. There's also a gauge on the side, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And so usually I make 10. I don't need a full pot. Well, but I read the gauge from the other side. And I poured it up to 10. And apparently that doesn't equate to what it says on the other side. I don't know why. But I looked over there, and it had finally fully brewed, and it was a millimeter or two from overflowing on the case. And that's not what would happen if you have one of these fill your own ink things. That's what would happen. I'd fill it with Waterman Black and then be done with it, but that's kind of boring, right? All right. Let's take a look at what we got. If we get far enough. So we've got pens from yesterday. They are blurry. Let's focus that in there. Boom. The Esterbrook. We're going to Serenity Blue. Perfect. Esterbrook, we're going to test the nib. Looks, we'll see if we can get it tweaked a little bit. We've got the Swan Leverless. And the Conklin is ready to go. We'll put those together. I don't know what I did with. I must have taken the barrel. I think this is the good one. The client decided they wanted to swap this. Apparently, this pen does have sentimental value. So we are going to swap. What the heck did I do with? We're going to swap that barrel out, and give me a second here. I'm losing my mind. I had the old barrel I had taped up. Well, that barrel was cracked, so it's around here somewhere. I don't know what happened to it. I must have set it off to the side. Just going to double check this barrel. What happened to it? That is so weird. Because I literally had it sitting here. Oh, you know what I did? There it is. What we're going to do, and this is a really super minor thing. But I'm going to take, so this is the old part. So this is a sentimental pen. This is one of those issues where I want to try to keep as much possible on the pen as it was. So I'm going to take this little piece here off. And we're going to save that. And it may seem like a really super minor thing, but then at least I can say the only part on here that is not the same as when this person's friend gifted him this pen was the actual barrel. So let's see. And then I do have a couple of interesting pens to work on if we get that far today. But I've got missing a screwdriver. I've got maybe a longer term project. That I can maybe at least start today. And it might make some of you nervous. Is the crack at the base by the O-ring. On this old barrel, yeah, it's a big one too. It's about an inch long. Yeah. It runs pretty much all the way to this piece of tape. And there's another crack on the other side over here. On this side by the breather hole. Ooh, look at that. Beautiful. Yeah, yeah, there's no personalization on the barrel. You know, and it's at a point where you it's just not gonna fill well. And I know in this case, not that it makes it any difference, and it doesn't. If it's a sentimental pen, it's a sentimental pen. It doesn't matter. But I know in this case, the person the pen came from found it at an antique store and gave it to this person because they knew they appreciated and loved fountain pens. So it wasn't something that they actually used. $100 plastic repair and a $30 barrel. Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna blows through. That's pretty good. We're just gonna drop that in the ultrasonic while we take a look at the rest of this. Okay, well, not much going on there. I cleaned that part out pretty good before I put it in the parts bin. There's no O-ring in it at all. You attended the best ever pen meeting last week? Me too. It was Ohio. All right. You signed a Pelican Hub banner, had opportunity to try many pens without danger of harming them. I get creepy about handling pens of others, but I was assured all necessary tutorial will be provided. Usually 30 or 40 mass confusion. This time 6 enjoyed sharing. You're kind of gathering, yeah. You don't know if your last pen meeting was the best ever, but it was one that took the most effort ever. Yeah. I'm sorry that thing didn't go as well as it was billed out to be. I'll tell you what, I've received, I know you didn't do that. There weren't that many people in the class, but I've received a number of messages from folks that were very happy with the class. So you should be pleased with the response. Yeah, there's lots of work. A lot of work to do. So, funny story. Story time. You have one sign up so far for the next one in February. Okay. If you get beyond 6, I'll have to look harder. Try to get all this shellac off the end of this. I hope I don't find out a reason why they had it, but I don't see any cracks in here. There's a washer in there already, so maybe that's what they did. They just glued the damn thing in place. I just hope I don't run into this person's pens anymore. Anyway, you attended the Melbourne Pen Show a couple of weeks ago. 3 times as many people attended compared to previous years. Many fine vintage pens for sale. Awesome. I would like to go to a pen show outside of the United States sometime. That would be fun. There we go. Nice and clean. So, as some of you know, Paul Lorano wrote a book a number of years ago, and it's been a real staple with respect to as far as beginner books are concerned. The price point is right. It's like $20, and you just can't go wrong. Well, when he got around to the second edition, he asked me if I would contribute some pens for the book, and he would have them photographed for me in Chicago. So I met him in Chicago. I brought all my best pens. He selected a number of them, 8 or 10 maybe, and we had them photographed, and that was that. And when the book came out, I bought the book, and at the time, Lisa also had pens that were going to be featured in the book as well. So we were to share, and this is, of course, back in long before we were married. So 2003, I think, is when this was. Before there was even an inkling that this deal was going to happen. So we both had our pens photographed at the same time. And when the book came out, in the first printing, all the pens on that page, I'm excited. I'm going through, and finally I've made the big time, right? I have some of my pens photographed in a professional book that is widely published. Lots of people have it, and it's attributed, all the pens are attributed to Lisa. So I'm not happy, but I take the approach that I email Paul and say, hey, listen, the book looks great. However, you sort of missed. And so for the second, he had a second printing of it, and he corrected it. And so all these years, it's sort of been one of those little funny little things where, it's a little jab every now and then. Well, Pen World comes out this last week. We get our courtesy copy because we're in the Pen World. And there's a mention about the St. Louis Pen Show that Lisa and I went to, where and I say we, and I mean, now Lisa and I did Pen Show 101 together, and then there was this other seminar. I did the panel of vintage pen stuff with Paul and my buddy Ray and a couple other folks. And then there was this other one that was assigned to us that we did not pick, called The Significance of Writing. And I looked at Lisa and said, I have no idea. I mean, we found out about it like a week before. Like, well, this is not something I have ever given a seminar on before. I don't know why we were assigned to this. I told them what I would give a seminar on, and they didn't choose that. They chose this. And so we're thinking this is going to be a half-hour thing. It's going to be a round table. We're gonna cut this thing short. It's listed for an hour. We're gonna get out of here. I think it was on our last day too. We're gonna go finish shopping, and then we're gonna head home. And there was none of that to be had. Lisa led the whole thing. I contributed like maybe 4 sentences, and it was literally standing room only. Every seat was taken. There were 4 or 6 people in the back just standing for the entire hour. Nobody left early. Lisa did a wonderful job, and she's not listening probably. So she's never going to hear the praise that I'm giving her. She did a fantastic job. Really saved our bacon with this thing. Because I don't really do presentation speeches and things like that on stuff I don't know about. And and it was great, and it went over really well. People loved it. People were contributing. People were commenting, and there was feedback back and forth, and they were asking questions, and it was really a lively conversation. Would I do it again? I have no idea. Anyway, fast forward to last week, Penworld comes out, and it's talking about St. Louis show, and what did it say? There were many many seminars, including Brian Anderson's The Importance of Writing. So all she's been saying for the last couple of days is, we're even. We're even now. She says, I did all of those seminars, all of them, which is not entirely true because we split the Penn Show 101s quite equally. But she says, I did all those seminars. It was standing room only. And she literally wrote her notes for that the morning of. and I got credit for it. I said, that's not quite the same. But she should have gotten credit for it. But it was kind of funny. You don't think it'll happen? Well, I mean, it's Hans. It's November. It's November. It's a long trip between now and February. All right. You'll get more than enough people. Yeah, that tightens up real nice. What scares me is now what that tells me is there's somebody whose method of restoring snorkels is to shellac the blank cap in. And there are more. There will be more found. That have been shellacked in. All right. Okay, that looks good. So if you haven't seen Penworld, there's a nice little article on us in it. I actually had someone, my client this morning asked me to sign it for her. So, okay. There we go. Oh, only I knew someone with pen magazines where you could get a copy. Well, so the funny thing is I was asked this morning. Well, I mentioned, I said, well, this is, this is not, obviously, it's not the first time we've been in Pen World. And I said, I think it's like 5 or 6 times now. And I don't know the exact number. I used to have copies of everything, and then I'm not sure I have copies of everything anymore. I mean, I gave most of them away, but I tried to keep one of anything that we were in. But I'm not certain I was successful. But I think it's 6. It might be 6. 6 articles, not passing mentions. Pen show stuff doesn't count. That's another. I looked this morning, and I was wrong. I mentioned in the podcast last Friday that I had been to 115 pen shows, but that's not entirely correct. The number is actually 124. Wonder if I'll hit 200 in my lifetime. If I'd have kept doing 10 shows a year, it would have been pretty easy. How many of those pen shows were your favorite? I'll tell you this, not all of them were my favorite. By and by, Ohio has ranked up there. Because yes, I do say that many of these shows were my favorite. All right. That Snorkel, we'll finish it up tomorrow. Let's take a look at, see if we can get this guy back together. Yeah, Ohio's got the best auction. I don't know. It's definitely changed. I feel bad. I really like the Saturday auction. I just have decided to, in the last few years, I've decided to maximize my exposure to the show, which means I leave Saturday and I don't actually go to the Saturday auction. Yeah, that Ohio needs that hotel. That show needs a new hotel. So here, so there's the pressure bar and it fits in this slot. So now that it's in this slot, we can turn this because it's threaded. And what we'll probably do is we'll test it, and if it works, we'll shellac this section. Yeah, that hotel it's got to go. or part of the contract needs to be you got to hire 2 extra people at the bar and for breakfast and, and for dinner. Because one person in the bar and one person running the restaurant, it's just not, it doesn't work. Clean out some of these threads here. It's also not the largest gathering place either. When the show is done, the bar's got a little room, but not a ton. Bar and gathering space at the current Triangle Show are excellent. I was shocked yesterday when I looked. Lisa and I were just, we were spitballing as we often do. And I just couldn't believe how cheap it was to get to Raleigh. Now, naturally, if I wait if I wait 6 months to get the ticket, it'll be $450. All right, well, let's see if this works, huh? Well, we gotta put these together here first. Triangles limited in floor space, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what the current configuration is. It was always kind of a smaller show, and I remember the table price was not inexpensive. You can have cheap tables, a big ballroom, or good recreational space, and you can usually pick 2, But you don't get all 3. Compared to all of North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham is pricey. They have a good assortment of beers on tap. Oh, well, that was one thing that just annoyed me to no end in Ohio, is that the limitation of the number of beers on tap, it was pathetic. They had about three good beers there, and they were all out by Friday night. They only had one available on Thursday, and I thought, well, that's fine. I can have that on. I can have it on Friday, but there were none to be found. Why is this so difficult? 1 or 2 macros and 4 or 5 good local craft brews, that sign me up. Yeah, they couldn't promise that in Ohio. And given the Columbus Hotel's proximity to the Budweiser brewery, you should consider yourself lucky it wasn't all very. Yeah, I mean, it was. You walk out, you literally walk out into the parking lot, and you can see this huge. I don't know how many story tall Budweiser lighted sign in the literally in the parking lot. All right, our number 10 special is going back. There we go. Look at that. Believe it or not, I see a little bit of ink on here, so we're going to polish that up too, just because we can. Oops. Just going to take a little micro gloss on here. Just on this little section, you can see some of the purple ink coming out. So I don't know. Maybe we'll have to see. Maybe Raleigh gets put on the list for next year. The problem is Raleigh falls so soon after Chicago and you got to build up your stores, your cash reserves. Conklin 1. Got all this great perfect marks on the barrel. This hand that's filling a crescent filler in ink. I don't know if you can see this. It's just fantastic. There's actually a crescent on that little pen in his hand there. Thumb is pressing on the crescent. It's so nice. I don't even know that I want to ink it up. I mean, I don't know that that's. It's probably, yeah. It's probably probably not just going to ink it. I'm not even going to ink it up. I don't think, because then I got to clean it. First, one would ask, well, why on earth did you sack it if you weren't going to ink it? I love the idea that if I want to, like the early shapers with the hand showing how to uncap the pen. Yeah. Do I have one of those? Is that on one of these guys or no? I can't remember. I don't think they have them on this one. No. My 2 disaster purchases from. No. Those I need to clean up. I don't know what I'm going to do with those. All right, well, let's, I guess we can at least try this guy, see if it works. I'm going to start a new bottle of ink because this one is getting kind of low, so it's, when this one gets to about half level, then I'm just going to combine the 2 bottles. Which I know for some people, they probably think that's a sacrilege, but. Yeah, who else did the cap at the top? Was it on these diamond points too? No. No, this one just has an arrow that points up to tell you to unscrew the top of the cap. I got to find a nib for that, and then we can restore that one too. All right, let's see. So it goes about a half a turn, and that's pretty much all. Oh, yeah. You've got to turn it clockwise to compress the pressure bar, and then you have to turn it counterclockwise to release it to fill the sack. It's got some softness to the nib. It's nice though. That'll work. I'll leave the rest of the page. Well, I'll do this. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave the rest of this part here for the snorkel for tomorrow. You think you have a Charles Keene pen with a hand logo made in New York City? I am trying to think. I've seen them on other pens before. Well, that works nice. So I think what I'll do is I'll probably put a little shellac on there just to make sure that nobody Accidentally opens it. But yeah, you can see. So that much there. Now that compresses the sac completely, and actually filling it is releasing this going counterclockwise. And so it's a little hard to do. It is knurled on the end, but it is a fairly complete compression. I can kind of see why people might not have liked it as well, because it kind of hurts your fingers and it's hard to get a grip on it. You know, and it would have been better if you had the whole line cap to operate it, but you don't. So but what's interesting is it's not actually marked Mabie-Todd anywhere. Usually it's Blackbird made by Mabie-Todd and Company. This is, the nib just says Blackbird made in England. The barrel says Blackbird made in England. And that's all she wrote. That's all you get. All right, well, we're going to tweak this nib here because this is just not going to work. And I should mention, McPenthusiast, how you doing? Welcome. If you send in a pen to me to repair, and we're repairing it on the stream, it never occurred to me that people might think that there's a protocol here. I'm not going to say whose pens these are out of respect for your privacy, but if you want to chime in and say, hey, man, that's my Esterbrook, knock yourself out. Do it. I'm not going to do it for you, but if you want to and you want to talk about it, please do. If you just want to watch, awesome. But there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, that's your Conklin on the tray. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have a stub nib on it. Weirdest thing. Maybe it should be Conklin week. Every time I finish one pen, I'll bring another Conklin. There we go. That's better. You have wire cutters that turn any. Oh my! I should ban you just for saying that. A Conklin #1 nib. I don't think I have that. That's the only Conklin #1 nib I think I have. They are not in abundance. Now, and again, I am not a Conklin collector. I appreciate Conklin's contribution to the pen world in the early teens and 20s. And they sure made some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful pens. What is this? This is an SJ, isn't it? I'm starting to lose my mind here. I did find I was looking for a nib this morning for that Sterling Schaefer Imperial. Because I knew I had some nibs. And unfortunately, I did not find one. But I did find essentially a slim Targa in a stub. Straighten that clip out a little bit here. Yeah, that's an. It's an LJ. Well, that nib was not usable. Uh, but it is now. With light pressure on this nib, I mean, that's really extra fun. I'm always nervous when I see a 1550 nib because they're never um um they're not my favorite nib, and they're always very susceptible to being out of alignment and scratchy and all that. Hello, happy Tuesday. Yeah, so that's actually quite nice. That'll work. Fills nicely now. This one can go home. A far cry from the stub that they want, but you know. You must say the medium nib you picked out for you on the LJ is really nice. It may end up in a desk pen. Yeah, it was something else, wasn't it? I knew you'd like it. All right. You know, I've been going through all my writing samples for all of the pens that we had on launch when the website launched. It was 700 some pens, right? Um, and you know, just as I did today, I always start out, you know, whatever the day is, I start out with number one, and then I go down the line. And but I never actually assign them a number until they've been photographed and they're in. They've been photographed. They're in a binder and they're in queue to be put up. Well, it occurred to me the other day that, you know, I have more and more folks stopping in at the warehouse here on a weekly basis. And if somebody were to want to see the writing sample for any of the first 700 pens, it would be a challenge to figure it out. So, and I have them all in order. And it's a stack about 3 inches high. You know, it's of all these sheets here, you know, with the writing samples on it and my notes. And so I've been going through tray by tray, and then I cross off the ones that have been sold. So, you know, and I check the nib. I pull the pen out of the tray because, you know, there's a lot of black Esterbrooks and there's a lot of, you know, whatnot. One day I should start numbers with 14. 14. Why 14? Just because? So I'm going through the whole list, and then I take what I do is I take a Sharpie and then I write over the number. It's, you know, 143 or whatever it is, and then I go through, and if I sold this one, I cross it off, and then if I've sold everything on the page, I just throw the page out, right? So I've got this kind of evolving list. And I'm just shocked at the number of pens and why not? Yeah, why not? Sure. I'm shocked at the number of pens where I write, you know, and when I write, if I like the nib, I write like, wow, you know, nice nib or whatever. I make some really, you know, some good comment about the nib. I'm just shocked at how many really, really good nibs are still available. I mean, usually the really, you know, the killer nibs go first, and then there's like still good nibs, and then there's nibs that are kind of like, well, they're maybe not the best, but they're usable, you know. And it's an Esterbrook, so you can replace the nib if you want. But there's a ton of really, really good nibs left. Yeah, I mean, and even steel nibs. I'm, and I have to sit back here and go, okay, well, why do I have so many pens left? I mean, okay, I maybe flooded the market with Esterbrooks, but there's a lot that are just really, really good. So I'm just gonna put a little bit on here. And then if I keep this up and turn the barrel, I can make sure that that pressure bar doesn't slide out of place. And then that won't move. All right, Greg, we'll do the next time around. We'll start at 14 or some weird number. Maybe we'll go only in prime numbers or something. 1, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. Okay, so those are good. These two pens are together, so this pen will have to wait till tomorrow. And this baby can go home. I won't try it out. It's just too nice. At least I know if I want to use it, I can. The nib was a slightly tweaked too. It would need some work, and I just don't really want to mess around with it. So those are good. There. We had started these 45s. I think I really want to continue on with those. Because these are just going to be easy. We'll just... although this one's going to be challenging because I need a gray section on this. Nope. Too dark. Nope. Okay, that's not gonna work. Let's check the other part spins. Oh. I need light gray, not dark gray. Barrels. I guess we could make it into a rollerball. Hmm. Believe it or not, I don't have a correct section for that pen. Well, that's all right because one of these had a kind of a crappy nib. This one. So let's just switch these out. Put that off to the side. Recently received a vintage sailor pocket pen. The nib feels almost like I'm writing with a pencil. Puts down ink well and the tines don't look misshapen. I'm guessing it's extra fine. Yeah, I mean, number one, that's kind of been a signature trait of sailor for a long time. But even with a vintage sailor, um, if it's actually a sailor extra fine, it's going to be fine. It's going to be much finer than a Western extra fine. So you have to temper your expectations with respect to the amount of pressure that you put on the pen, particularly if you've come into this hobby from the perspective of a ballpoint user. Yeah, it is different. It's absolutely different. So just understand that when you're buying vintage, well, any Japanese pen, pretty much any Japanese pen for that matter, um, that makes their own nibs, I should say, because you just want to know that the fine is more like an extra fine, and extra fine is more like a wowza. All right. Better watch this clutch ring. It really does not want to stay on here very long. It'll be fine. And this straightened out a little bit. I'm just going to try to see if I heat this up just a little bit now that it's sat for a while. There's still a little bit of funkiness going on here. And I talked about this on the podcast. So even a little bit more has now straightened this out a little bit. You can kind of see where the twist marks are, but this is fully usable now. We're going to let that sit. A little piece of this converter is not perfect. Looks like somebody may have disassembled it at one point. But thank you for the insight. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, the kind of the problem, and I say problem, but I don't. For me, I've always been a medium nib kind of guy. Well, this is really a. Was that this one? I've always been a medium nib kind of guy, and Japanese pens, even their mediums are really quite fine. Like it's hard to find broad nibs in vintage Japanese pens. They're extra fine or they're fine, and that's what you get. That's what you get. So um, you kind of have to like that. Let me see if I've got. Or this converter looks a little better. So the end of this is just really, it's kind of beat up. Yeah, this fits in much better. I'm just going to use this for testing purposes anyway. So, um, I think there's enough of a same. You like medium or broad, but you bought an A6 Hobonichi planner for 2026, so you need something that runs small. Yeah, yeah, and that's come up here before, right? You know, if you got a A6 Hobonichi, it's you can't be writing with the double broad Yovo that I've got on this guy. I mean, it's just you know, it's not gonna work. I'm just gonna dump this in here. There wasn't much left in there. That will go in my empty bottle collection. All right, here you go, Greg. $14. Probably for the best you don't use a planner. I wouldn't be able to enjoy your favorite nibs. This is really a medium, but it's really. I need to tone it down a little bit. You're feeling your memory isn't quite what it used to be, so been using planners for the past few years. I don't like using the phone for those things. There we go. Much better. You off early tonight? All right, Juicy. Have a good night. You prefer your phone because you can access it from your laptops and anywhere else, but you do miss out on the writing. Yeah, I'm with you there too. Convenience and flexibility is unparalleled in that aspect. Yeah. I keep telling myself that if I were, this is a fine. This is the weirdest tipped fine I've seen. It's very ball tipped. Yeah, there's no way. No way that's fine. But we also don't know. It's, the nibs are not marked on the nib. They're marked on the collar, so they're easily swappable. Now, what I could do, but I don't, is I could change the collar to reflect the nib, but it's a lot of unnecessary work, I think. This one is exciting, though. 14 karat broad nib. In a flighter. And I think this is a third generation flighter. But if you're going to have a 45 flighter, this is the one you want. And I'll tell you why. Because this version is an all metal barrel. There's no plastic on the end like the first two versions are. Or the first version is. Um, there we go. That's a nice nib. Is this going to pop up on the site, or is this a customer? Is he asking for a friend? Yeah, this will be for sale. Yeah, that's nice. That'll work. I am going to take this nib unit apart here real quick. With a broad nib like that, sometimes you get something trapped in the feed. Good thing you have carpeting. We're going to flush all these in a bit once we get through the next three. We got our 14 karat medium. Well, that's a nice nib. Really nice. Smooth. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. Sorry. A little too excited on that one. Cheater? Is it cheating if I knew the answer before you put it up? That one I knew. Look at this, we're on number 18. That's really burgundy. You had the first attempt of snow there today? We've missed it here in our portion of the state. There was some east of us last weekend. I'm not quite ready for it yet. The only thing I like about this time of year, well, not the only thing, but one of the things I like about this time of year is I get to break out my winter coats. I don't think I bought one last year, but I usually buy one a year. Whether I want to or not. And usually it's some variation of color or style that I don't have. And the rule that one in, one out does not apply with coats. I thought I was going to grow a mustache in November. Well, it's the 11th. I mean, I'm working on it. It's almost there. It's coming. It's very light over on this side for some reason. It's all the gray hairs. It's all stress and troubling customers. No, I don't know. This time of year growing up, your grandmother would trace your hands closed and open and ask what color mittens you wanted for her to make for you. Oh, that's cool. Yes, November is Movember. My daily reminder for the month to support men's health care. We don't do a good job of it, so we need to all be better. We don't go to the doctor enough. We don't get regular checkups enough. But we need to do that. So that's my cause for the month. December, Lisa and I have a different cause that we support that we've done for most of the last 5 years. And I believe we'll probably do the same this year. Um, we've always donated a portion of sales from Black Friday through the end of the year towards the local feeding America, and we actually have a Wisconsin chapter quite close by. So our donation helps people in Wisconsin. So we do what we can. Broad nib on a flighter. Man, that's cool. Just going to flush these out, and then we'll spin them out, and then we should be good to go on these guys. And I got this aerometric guy here. I know it's actually only a couple of weeks off. What's has everybody got their Thanksgiving plans in order? Lisa and I got our turkey breasts already. We usually get this this turkey breast that you cook in the bag. Ends up being real tender. But if we don't get them early, we don't get them. So we just got them this last weekend. And then we make the kids come over, and we just have everybody brings over something, you know. Somebody brings over a pie, somebody brings over, everybody's bringing a potato. We're doing potato wars, I think, again this year. Everybody brings a different potato dish, and we vote on which one we like the best. Somebody will bring rolls or whatever, you know. And we just all sit around. I remember the good old days. You have Dad and Grandpa watching the Packers Lions game after every after dinner. You'll be cooking the turkey at your parents' place for Thanksgiving. You had to buy a spare to cook some other time of the year. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes we do that too. We'll buy. Lisa will get an extra. You know, if they're on sale or something, we'll get an extra turkey breast, and they're just so nice. You literally you throw them in the oven and you forget about it. You cook them right in the bag. That just slots right over there, and then you spend the rest of your time doing cooking. I don't know what we're gonna do. Do I consider sweet potatoes as potatoes? I mean, I'm not a sweet potato fan. I don't like sweet potatoes, so for me that would be a no. But you'd love to cook the whole turkey on the grill. Now's the time to stock up. Yeah. Yeah, I look at it this way. It's more for somebody else to love. But we decided sweet potatoes are better than potatoes. Okay. Well, I mean, you're entitled to be wrong. Just kidding. Just kidding. You respectfully dissent. You're gonna be World War III over sweet potatoes. I'm just a big fan of potatoes, so I don't care what form they come in, as long as they're of the regular spud kind. But we decided long ago once the kids were of reasonably, mature age, we weren't going to make anything nobody was going to eat. So, sometimes you make these things that you've made for, 20 years because that's what you make for Thanksgiving. But if nobody wants green bean casserole, why are we making it? So, you make you make sure you've got a potato of some kind. You've got, the pies that people want to eat. If nobody wants pecan pie, I mean, I think they're probably communists if they don't like it, but that's fine. You don't have it, So we ask kids what they want. What are you going to eat? And that's what we have. And everybody's got something favorite. The kids love the crescent roll, so we make. Nobody in the entire U.S. wants green bean casserole. Probably not. Probably not. I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind it in some situations, but your brother will bake something. That's what you look forward to. Yeah, the kids love the crescent rolls, and so what we usually end up doing is we end up getting like 3 or 4 of the containers of crescent rolls, and we make them because the kids will just they'll eat them like nobody's business. So we know that'll go. Well, now, people. I'm sorry I said it before, but I have no idea what this means, but this is what the barrel says. Top 3 open mess, Clark Air Force Base, Philippines, 1958 to 1959. You've been called worse. Don't knock a casserole, especially if they're a crispy onion. I know, right? If it's a casserole, it's good. I love casseroles. This is really kind of a dry. Unexciting writer, but it's got an interesting history to it, apparently. Top 3 is the 3 highest enlisted ranks at the Air Force Base. So what does mess mean? Top 3 open mess. Needs to be opened up, maybe. Maybe that's just the problem. So the top 3 enlisted men got a pen? That's a nice deal, huh? They say that one of my great grandparents would host Thanksgiving dinner, would have to have 3 settings to feed everyone. My great grandfather would sit down at all 3 settings and eat. Wow. They would have a club typically called a mess at the time. And is that different than the mess hall? Parallel to the officers club. Oh. Okay. There we go. So this is our Veterans Day pen is what this is. It's a dinner club for warrant officers. It's kind of a nice looking pen. It just has no marking on it whatsoever. No identification. It is very 51-esque, but obviously it is not with this. Triangulated section. There we go. We got the imprint facing up the right way. That's kind of fun. I like the clip. Oops. We'd be nice with your Thule Air Force Base Officers Club Schaefer snorkel set. That, and then you need the Esterbrook. You have the Esterbrook U.S. Navy 444 dipless. I think there's an Air Force version too. You don't need it. Let someone else enjoy it. I would not be surprised if when this comes time to hit the market, we find somebody who was, well, let's see, Clark Air Force Base in 58. You know, if you were there when you were 18, I mean, you're at least born in 1940. So yeah, you're 85 minimum if you were there. It's about a 2. The first stroke doesn't do much, but the second stroke seems to hit the target. All right, let's spin those out. Those are pens 14 through 20, in case you're taking notes. Spin those out. It's 407. All right, well, then we got time for the next batch of crazy ideas. Whoa! We got pens over there tipping over on the side here. How do you define the top 3 enlisted men? It's by rank. I mean, aren't there going to be multiple of the same rank? Or are we saying it was the top? What are the top 3 highest enlisted ranks? I guess maybe that's what this is. So it's not 3 people, it's the 3 highest ranks, huh? And I confess I have no idea what the top 3 are. Remind you to show the stream your turkey pen before Thanksgiving? All right, I'll try to remember. Current is Sergeant Major, Master Sergeant, and Sergeant First Class. Sergeant Major's being the highest, huh? At least in the Army, Air Force is similar names. Oh, okay. So if you were one of those three, you would have gotten this pen at Clark Air Force Base in 58, 59. Heading off to start your day. Catch up with the rest later. All right, Gary. Take care. You could buy the pen. Oh, okay. Interesting. So it wasn't really an award. You would just buy it. Might also have been given as a present when the owner was transferred to another location. Okay. So many interesting possibilities, right? Okay, those are, for all intents and purposes, those are done. All right. What I want to do this is essentially parts at this point. Is let me go grab something here. Hang on. All right, we're gonna. This is gonna make Hans nervous. So we got two Mandarin Sr Duofolds. One is very nice, but has a. Maybe you should leave it out. No. One is really very nice. This one is very nice, but it has a bad nib. This is user grade with a really good nib. So the end goal is I'm going to remove this nib. I might. This pen is actually in working order. I've restored this pen in the past. I might swap this nib into this pen. And then put a different nib into this pen. But we're just going to kind of see what. My one thought I had was I was going to swap caps, but the colors you notice are not exactly the same, and the imprint on this barrel is not strong at all. So we're just going to be exceptionally careful. This is not something you should attempt at home ever. Yes, and for context, these are expensive and notoriously fragile pens. If you have a Mandarin, particularly a Mandarin Sr Duofold. Now, the best part, if there is that the cap is the most fragile. I would argue that the cap is the most fragile part of the whole shoot and match. Nothing here really needs to be done to the cap. We're going to leave that alone, except for maybe clean it out. But it doesn't really need to be, if. Well, actually, it unscrews, so we can unscrew that and we can clean that without risk of damaging the cap. Yeah, you hate unscrewing duofold sections. Yeah, well, I do too. And we're just going to see how it is. But if you have one of these, this is not the pen you should start pen restoration on ever. And if you're, I would argue if you have less than 5 years of experience in pen repair, you should not be working on one of these pens, because particularly if it is not yours. Finding parts. Yeah. So we're gonna. My initial thought was maybe I could just swap the sections, but I've proven before that doesn't always work, because this works and this is all in one place, one piece with the sack. We could swap them out. But we can't be guaranteed because they're not exactly the same. This one is slightly earlier. This comes in 1927. They split the bands up. Do I not have a replacement nib? I do. I have a replacement nib. Actually, I have two. Which I realize is the right thing, but I think this might be the. I know this is only something I would do is play nib roulette on two Mandarin Duofolds. Are they the most fragile vintage? I guess it depends. You'd keep it as it sits. The only thing I worry about. Let me get the nibs. Let me get the. I don't have anything that's. And again, maybe this is just like the Conklin. It's a really a moot point. It's not like I'm gonna. I mean, I actually have inked this up, and I have walked around it and had that in my pocket before, which I realize is kind of insane. But I'm just hoping for something with a little bit more of a medium nib. So I've got a really nice nib on this pen, but it's scratched up. Yeah, I got to put a good nib back in this pen. And this nib actually looks, well, it's not. Aesthetically, it's not super pleasing. That's option one. That has the same imprint. This is where it gets dicey. And it's got to be a dual fold nib. It can't be a later Vacuumatic replacement. This nib is slightly later. It says dual fold, but it also says made in USA. This is probably the most correct nib so far. I knew this this would get your blood running, Hans. I just knew it. I got one other option. Is dicey a pen repair technical term? Yeah, it sure is. All right, so I've got all of these duofolds are very difficult because permanent or not, they're not permanent. You're looking through your nibs too. And see now this one's nice. I could swap it on this, but this has a bigger imprint. So now I get into that part where I have to decide. I have to figure out what the correct imprint is. You know, this has got the big imprint. This looks like it's the correct nib. It's the same nib. Boy, look how long that is. You don't have the right nib. And I don't have my dual fold book. So I may need to bring that in tomorrow. I got a couple other dual folds here. Now this nib here on this Mandarin has the same nib that is in this pen. And there's also a completely other option here, which is probably the best option is to not mess with this at all. Which would really is probably the best option. So let's do this for now. I mean, finding the right nib for this is probably not a problem. But if you have the Duofold book, the Duofold book lists all of the nib imprints basically by year. Let's do this first. That feels great. See that. So I mean that brings in the question, if it's a really nice pen, if you're never going to use it, why do we risk opening it up? But it's got a bad nib. It's significantly broken, so in 3 spots. I mean, the cracks are almost, which, the worry then is, if we put this nib in, what is causing the crack? Is it going to make this nib crack as well? And this one also has, the only thing I don't like about this, I really got to do something about this. They fixed these lights and they made it's got scratches right through the Duofold and then below the word pen. But it's all there. So I guess we're going to have to figure out. First step is to figure out what nib. You know my opinion on this. I know you do. When I looked through my parts today to try to find the nibs, I knew this was going to be a case of I need my book. And it's not as simple, unfortunately, as I was hoping it was going to be as simple as, like, I can just swap the caps and then I've got one really good pen that works. But the imprint on this pen is basically gone. I mean, I couldn't tell you where the hell it is. I could probably figure it out. Oh, I can see it. Yeah. I mean, but it's mostly gone. And if I'm going to do that, I might as well, you know, keep the whole thing. But now, if the nibs are somewhat interchangeable on the imprints, then I could, in theory, swap the nib sections. And then I would have the best of both worlds. And then I can put, it doesn't matter what I put in the other pen, you know. It also doesn't need to be done now. So I just thought, you know, it's time to look at it. And but I'm also trying to restore some more of my own pens because I don't do that enough. I mean, this is an exceptional user. It's really I mean, it's heavily worn. We got some hairline cracks in the cap. We got a little bit of a ding in the back, but it's, you know, it's, you want a user grade Mandarin? I mean, here it is. So, and you have to be careful, especially if you know there's hairline cracks in these. You don't want the Q-tip to accidentally hit the crack and open up. Yeah, so I think for now this is a short-lived experiment just from the amount of nervousness it has generated. Um, I could just leave the nib in. I'm not worried about this cracking, actually. I'm not terribly worried about that part. I just don't like that this nib is such a disaster. What I will do, though, is take this cap apart because we've got this stain here. I'm just going to kind of soak it in there for just a little bit. It should be fine. Let's take it's You're driving yourself. It was loose. It was loose. Yeah, I mean, I know that's the most valuable part of this whole deal, right? You're driving yourself crazy. I'm toning this down because I know I knew this would do this to you, and I was gonna give you advance warning earlier today, but I thought no. I don't want that in there too long. You need to run to the UPS store. You'll watch it back later. All right. It's gonna be fine. Well, there's your answer. So, is there a way to stop the ends of an existing crack so that it does not spread? Um, well, I mean, there is. If you were in the drumming world, you drill a hole in the cymbal to prevent a crack from spreading. There actually is a crack in this cap. Um, yeah, there's a crack, which is in the most unusual of all places. Normally, you'll find them at the cap lip, which this one does not have. But there's a crack running out from the breather hole. So we don't have a perfect pen at all, which is what I thought we had, but we don't. Um, So it's no longer, it's still a very fragile pen. It's still very expensive. But the existence of a crack, I mean, changes the value by a lot. Well, this one is user grade status. Basically, worn imprint off the barrel. Um, Multiple hairlines. Two. I think there's two hairlines in the cap lip. Brassing on the band. There's a dent in the cap band. This is user grade. Still very expensive. Outside of this crack in the cap, this pen is, I mean, and the nib is bad, but the nib is exchangeable. This is not user grade. And quite honestly, almost, and even if you look up David Nishimura's opinion on this, there's not a single Mandarin Duofold in existence, save for like a lady Mandarin, which has the big wide gold cap band at the cap lip. There's not a single one that he thinks should be used. I was hoping that this, you see that little mark there, I was hoping that was just a stain, but when I travel that up to the top, I can actually see the crack. It's cracked through the top. This part where you would expect cracks is fine. There's no cracks there. So in actuality, I've got a working functional pen here. And while this has a better barrel imprint, the cap is really no better. You know, existence of any crack is, it almost doesn't matter where it is. You know, I mean, it's not a crack free cap anymore. And I've scared poor Hans off. But the imprint on here is beautiful. Just a stunning imprint. But now this is sort of, I don't know what kind of status we put on this. I mean, you can't just find a cap. And I don't know if I can get this. I'm just going to polish this. It got a little bit of a sticky residue on it from the, I don't know if I can polish this little mark off of the, what is the thought on trading out the cap for another? There isn't one. That's the problem. Big if you were to find a crack-free cap, number one, I don't think it exists. That's not our, if you have a crack-free cap, you put it on a pen. You know, if somebody had a crack-free cap that they, I mean, because a cap is a third the value of the pen. And it's the part to crack. Yeah, it's the expense of a crack-free cap. I mean, one could argue on this pen, the cap is the pen. I'm disappointed that, now having taken this cap apart, I can see that this line here, which I thought was maybe just an ink stain, actually goes up, and you can see it over the top and on the other side. You'll never find. I mean, the only possibility is you find another Mandarin Sr duofold that doesn't have as nice of a barrel. But if anybody finds a crack-free cap, that it's you either, if you don't have the barrel, you find one, because that's not a terrible imposition, or you hang on to it because so both caps are cracked. Yeah, it's a question. It seems to be worth it to some collector's budget. Yeah, I mean, you would have to get extremely lucky to find a cap. I mean, I've been very lucky. I will admit that openly. I've been very lucky in finding correct parts and PFM gray sections and nibs, thanks to the help of friends. But this is maybe not a. I mean, I can't afford a cap, right? I mean, this. I mean, you could ask whatever you wanted. You could ask $1,000, and you'd get somebody to buy it at $1,000. I guarantee it's not any less than 500. If I could just get this stain out of here. I mean, that's a huge crack, though. I mean, maybe I'm better off with this one. Well, we're gonna let this percolate, I think, for the rest of the day. This is on the higher order of pen collecting. And I certainly don't expect people to understand. I mean, this is not like collecting Twisbees. One of these is more valuable than the other, but at this point, I really don't know which one it is. It's probably still this one. Because in theory, the nib problem is fixable. So, all right, well, it was not nearly anywhere as exciting as I thought it was going to be. And I'm going to leave this one here because, well, that came from this pen, which is too discolored to even. Why did Parker not try strengthening the Mandarin material after the cracks became known? It wasn't around long enough, and it didn't sell enough. And quite honestly, the cracking problem on permanite is a problem that did not develop in its lifetime. They threw these pens off of buildings. They threw them off of skyscrapers, from planes, to prove that they didn't break. I mean, this is what, 1927 on this pen. You start getting into 7 years later, we're 8 years later, we're talking vacuumatics, complete different material altogether. I mean, these pens are done. They're gone. I mean, probably sooner than that. You're moving into so this would be 27 because they I think in 27 when Streamline came out. Well, that's not true. This is earlier. So this would be, Streamline came out I think in 27, and shortly thereafter it was, your Duofold was no longer a Duofold. But it was not a popular color. George Barker liked it. But the public did not. They liked the orange or the red. They liked that guy. The jade, the blue, the black and pearl, which was the deluxe. And all the other different variations that they came out with. So if you're a product that's not selling and it's, whatever, we'll write it off and we'll move on to something else. But yeah, these, and if you don't know about that, you got to look it up. They literally threw the big reds. I mean, it was permanite. It's supposed to be permanent. It literally, I mean, and the repair manuals say if you can't get the section open to whack this on the side of the bench. I mean, you try that now, and I mean, now this particular cap is hard rubber, but you can see this crack. Yeah, yellow is the brightest color in the line, for sure. I mean, that's not for everybody. You probably see it more in juniors and ladies than you do in seniors. It just over time it gets. I mean, it's 100 years old, right? So I think that's enough terrifying pen repair for a day. I'll come up with something. I don't know that. I actually don't know that I'm going to do anything with this. I may just put it back together, and it's going to be, even with the bad nib, it's an upgraded version of the other one. And I sell the one that works because people will want something that works. I personally, 90% of the time, don't care. We'll see what the options are. But, to have a nice Mandarin in your collection is, it'll always be a beautiful pen. Yeah. And that's why I think this one, even with the nib problem, I'm not going to do this on camera, so you can't see me do this, but because some of these you actually have to pull the nib out from the front. You can't knock it out the back. And I wouldn't know it until I opened it up. Yeah, I don't know what to do now. I thought it was, and I thought that was just a stain in the cap, and it's not. So, well, there you have it. that's what happens. You know, I mean, the search continues. I've been very lucky to be able to find two. And, you know, I mean, I complete, it's not in the same category, but I completed a Parker 51 Flighter from a pen I bought at the show that had the wrong cap. And I had the cap. And I knew I had the cap. And what a nice, I mean, maybe we'll pull that one out next week and get that one in the queue, because it's too nice to be sitting in the, I mean, I kind of want to keep it for myself because I have that beautiful cap, but what are you going to do? You know, 51 Flighters are out there. I can find those. Seniors in Mandarin? No. So. Anyway, it's 5 o'clock. That gives me, I've got, since I didn't do any work really this morning, it gives me, I've got an hour and a half that I can do some work this afternoon. I've got some vintage pens that are going to go up. So if you are so inclined, you might see some vintage pens popping up. And I honestly can't remember what's on the list. I think there's some Schaefer's. I know the Wall Eversharp stenographer's pen, the bulb filler, is in the group. There's a couple of pseudo modern, inexpensive jobs. I don't know how far I get. I've got about maybe 20 pens to list. I can probably do most of those in the next hour if I set my mind to it. So keep an eye out for those. Tomorrow is Wednesday. 2 more days left for repair this week, and we'll go from there. I'll pull something else out. I think this Mandarin experiment is enough for the week. We'll just let this cap dry out, put it back together, and be done with it maybe. But I'll pull something else out fun. I need to find a nib for this diamond point. I'm sure I can find something. I just need to spend some time and look for it. I just don't want to do that while we sit here on the stream, because it could take me 45 minutes to find it. But I got an idea where they are. So maybe we'll do that so I can at least get that put away, find something else fun to work on, and we'll go from there. So thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been fun. We got through some good stuff today, and tomorrow we'll finish up the Snorkel, and we're gonna have to pull something else out because the 45s are done. So I'll finish up the Snorkel, start some new stuff, something else from Brian's vault, and we'll go from there. So have a good evening, a good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Be kind, be well, and we will see you tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone.